Well, folks, the economic storm has finally arrived. Let's talk about it on the weekly update. Okay, friends, let's talk about the economic storm. It has arrived. Here's what you need to know. Q2 earnings, and it's at a very early stage right now, but so far, they have confirmed my fears about both the consumer and the economy. And I'm not the only one who sees this. Let's take a look. So, if you'll remember, previous to this earnings season, our economy was very strong. The consumer was spending. There were excess pandemic savings. There was all this stuff going on. And if you'll remember, when we got to the quarter one earnings, I said, I'm starting to see some storm clouds on the horizon for consumer spending and the economy. And I was waiting for Q2 earnings to sort of confirm that. I'm starting to get confirmation. Let's just take a look at a couple economically sensitive names here. First up, American Airlines. Now, if you'll remember, vacationing, right? One of the things they said was we couldn't have a recession because everyone was on vacation, right? Vacationing, travel was extremely strong. There was revenge travel after the pandemic. I've got a little over a year's worth of history here on American Airlines, and you can see where they are. You know, after reporting earnings, adjusting guidance lower, all this sort of painful stuff that they just went through, travel boom is probably over. One of the pillars of economic strength that we were seeing has been removed. Take another one. Let's look at LambWeston. Now, if you don't know who LambWeston is, I love their logo. Seeing possibilities in potatoes, you got to love that. Really motivating to the workforce. You know, let's expand the possibilities of potatoes. But why am I talking about potatoes? Well, it's a staple, but more importantly, I'm using it as a proxy for restaurant demand. Another one of those things that we said about the previously strong economy was that, you know, we can't have a recession if everybody's going out to eat. So the vacations are over. LambWeston just reported their guidance was abysmal. Really amazing to see how much demand is being destroyed here. And, you know, maybe you might say, well, people just aren't eating potatoes anymore. No, it's French fries. And we're America. I can promise you, if French fries aren't getting it done in America, there aren't a whole lot of things that are getting it done. But as we go to some bigger, more economically sensitive things, you might say, okay, so it's just vacation, it's just restaurants, it's just leisure, but the underlying economy is still strong, certainly. Well, we got reports from UPS, and what UPS told us is that they're in a challenging environment. Now, UPS is a transport here. These guys are basically the lifeblood of the economy. Think about all the Amazon packages. Think about all the courier services of everything everywhere. Think about delivery businesses. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that UPS is touching, and this is generalizable. This is not just UPS having an issue here. It's not just LambWeston. It's not just American Airlines, right? It's these entire industries are having problems. You could also say the same thing for FedEx. You could say the same thing for Amazon on their logistics arm. We're seeing all of this inside the transports. What does this tell us? Well, if the blood pumping through the economy is starting to slow down, we know the economy is slowing down. The heartbeat of the economy, that growth engine, is slowing down here. And probably the biggest one, this is the most important one for us to pay attention to. Here's Visa, just reported earnings, and one of the things they said payment volumes are slowing down. Now, there isn't a single thing in the economy that isn't touched by credit cards. And this includes debit cards. This is everything. This is just transaction volume. If transaction volume is drying up, it leads to bad earnings for Visa, which is what we're seeing today. But that tells you there's not a single aspect of the economy that isn't touched. Whereas previously we were talking about consumer discretionary, we were talking about housing, you know, these weird big ticket items, maybe some of this leisure sort of stuff. What Visa is telling us is it's everywhere. The storm has arrived. Not surprisingly, what we're starting to see out of Fed officials, this is Bill Dudley, former Federal Reserve Bank of New York until 2028. And this was in Bloomberg today. I've changed my mind. The Fed needs to cut rates now. This is clearly what I was seeing. You know, one of the things you heard from me was I was diagnosing this as an economy that needs rate cuts. Quarter two earnings is an absolute wake-up call. This economy is on shaky footing. And remember that we're talking about impacts to demand here. If we cut rates by a quarter point, which is the first rate cut that's expected, is that going to put everybody back into restaurants? Is that going to put everybody back onto airplanes? Is that going to, you know, start the good times all over again? I'm very doubtful. I think we're actually going to need quite a few interest rate cuts to come through before we start to see the stimulative benefit. So getting started sooner rather than later would be good. However, I don't think the Fed goes in July. I think they're going to put it off all the way till September, and I think there's going to be some economic damage as a result of that. So the storm clouds are here. The storm is here. Now, I don't want you to get too pessimistic. We don't know if it's going to be a sprinkle. We don't know if it's going to be a hurricane. All we know is that the storm is arriving, and we're going to have to deal with it. Now, this is good because if you remember on the channel, we've been talking about this for quite some time. It's nice that it's finally here, so I don't just sound like, some prophet of doom. But what I want you to focus on as we start to go through this process, my focus is going to be on two things. One is the duration and the intensity of the storm, but two, just like we saw with Bill Dudley today saying, hey, the immune system to the economy and the markets needs to turn on because we're getting a little sick here. I'm going to be thinking about those things that they're going to do to stimulate demand and get us out of this mess. So it's still early days. I think next week we're going to have a much better read on the economy because of how many companies are going to be reporting for us. But all I can tell you is in these early indications we have, about 20% of the S&P 500 has reported so far. It's not looking great, even at this early stage. So what does it all mean? The economic storm has arrived. The economic storm has arrived with Q2 earnings. At this point, it's impossible to tell if the storm will be a sprinkle or a hurricane. And we're starting to see the economic defense mechanisms begin to activate, right? The discussions at the Fed, the potential of rate cuts. These are the things that are going to fight this storm for us. During this time, don't get worried about it. These are very normal, fluctuations that happen in an economy. We really want to focus on two things during this time. The intensity of the current storm, how bad is it going to get, and signs that it's ending and the medicine is working. So previously, the economy was at all-time highs, everything was great, and I was telling you there's storm clouds on the horizon. Now we're going to move into a situation where we're going to be in a storm, but I'm going to be looking for the clouds starting to break. It's still early, we have no indication of that yet, but that's what I'm going to be on the hunt for, being that I figured out that this storm was going to come to us now. So there you go, there's the news review. I'll see you this weekend for the markets review. Take care. Okay, friends, that was the video. Hope you liked it. If you found it informative, good, entertaining, I'd love if you could scroll down here beneath the video and give me a like there. It helps us out with the algorithm. And then if you want to be notified first of anything new that we upload to the channel, if you come over here, click subscribe, you'll be the first to know as soon as we upload anything. Appreciate it. See you soon.